Hare Krishna. Welcome everybody for the evening Bhagavad Gita session, 5 to 6 p.m. Before we begin the session, let us have our prayers for Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshata Krishna Chaitanya Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandrodaya ki jai Shri Shri Nitai Gauranga ki jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai Jai Gaur Premanande. Welcome again for the evening Bhagavad Gita session, 5 to 6 p.m. So today we are going to read and understand the last two verses of 15th chapter, verse number 19 and 20. In the last session, we had discussed from verse 16 to 18. We just try to summarize that understanding because 19th and 20th is based on the continuity of those verses understanding. So in verse 16, Krishna was explaining to us, or from verse 16 onwards, Krishna is going to explain to us, 15th chapter, the summary of the Vedanta study. What is Vedanta? Vedanta means the end of all Vedic knowledge, or the ultimate purpose of all Vedic knowledge. The summary, Vedanta. This was compiled by Srila Vyasadeva. After he compiled all the Vedas, he personally written this Vedanta Sutra. And this Vedanta Sutra's commentary, natural commentary, or the commentary with the author of Vedanta, is known as Srimad Bhagavatam. And this we have understood in verse number 15. Krishna says, Vedanta Krit, Vedanta Vid, Eva Chaham. Means he is the compiler of the Vedanta, he is the knower of the Vedas, Lord Krishna says about himself. And he is the purpose or ultimate objective from all the Vedas. From all the Vedas, Krishna has to be known. That is the purpose. If you study the Vedas, analyze all the different Vedic literatures, the final conclusion should be to know about Krishna, to have knowledge about Krishna. That is the purpose. So Krishna is explaining the summary of the Vedanta from verses 16 to 20 in the Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter. The first point Krishna mentions in verse number 16 is about the innumerable living entities in the whole creation, both in the material world and in the spiritual world. Krishna says there are two classes of living entities or living beings. Dvavimau Purushau Loke. Purushau means living entities. Dvavimau means in this world there are two classes of living entities. What are they? One is called Kshara, that is fallible or the conditioned souls. And another class of living entities are called Akshara, or infallible living entities or liberated living entities. Krishna says that the living entities in the material world who have come in contact with this matter or the modes of material nature, they are called Kshara or Sarva Bhutani, which means they have become disconnected with Krishna and they have come to this material world. They want to have an independent existence. As Srila Prabhupada often quotes a nice statement from the Vaishnava Acharyas. Krishna bhuliya jiva bhogavancha kare. Nikatastha maya tare japatiya dhare. When the living entity wanted to forget Krishna bhuliya jiva, then he wanted to have an independent life of enjoyment without Krishna. Bhogavancha kare. Immediately, Maya captured him and put the living entity under her clutches, under her complete hold. So it is a very simple understanding which Krishna is telling in verse number 16. The living entities are either conditioned or liberated. They are conditioned when they are under the control of the modes of nature. They are all in the material world. They are liberated when they are not under the control of modes of nature. One important point Prabhupada was explaining to us is that the living entities in the spiritual world are called infallible or liberated. Why? Because they are in oneness with the Supreme Lord. In terms of all the aspects of Krishna's plans, aspirations, his desires, they are in one with Krishna's plans. There is no disunity. They are all agreeable to the purpose of the creation of the Lord. These living entities are called infallible or liberated souls. So from this statement, the first statement which Krishna makes in 16th verse of 15th chapter, we can understand that the living entities, when they are conditioned with the material modes of nature, they get material bodies and they go on changing their bodies life after life. So this body, in one sense, is we are getting because of our conditioning in this material world. Right? And the body goes through changes. The body is born, it grows, it stays for some time, it produces byproducts, it gradually dwindles and it vanishes finally. Whereas spiritual body, because it is not having influence of matter, it does not change. Spiritual body is made of Satchidananda ingredients, not like material body. And spiritual body, Krishna very clearly says that they don't undergo the changes the way material body undergoes. Birth, death, old age, disease, all these things, they don't undergo. Because they have the spiritual quality. Like the spiritual world, Lord Krishna's body is made up of Satchidananda ingredients. Likewise, all the spiritual entities, the living entities in the spiritual world are also having spiritual bodies. This aspect we have already discussed in verse number 7 of this chapter, when Srila Prabhupada was mentioning to us. Right now, the living entity, it is embodied. The spirit soul is covered. It's got an external covering called the material body. When the living entity is liberated from the bodily entanglement, Srila Prabhupada very clearly told us that the living entity is reviving his original spiritual body in the spiritual sky, in the spiritual planet, and enjoys association with the Supreme Lord. That is the way the living entity is actually situated in the spiritual world, in a spiritual body, in a spiritual world. So this much Krishna told in verse 16. And in verse number 17, Krishna mentioned that besides these two entities, that is fallible and infallible, there is a greatest living personality. Krishna mentions about Uttama Purushaha or Purusha Uttama. So this Purushottama, who is above both the living entities, he is actually is maintaining all the living entities all over the creation, especially in the material world. He is entering as Paramatma into every atom, into every living entity, and is maintaining them. In this world, in this whole universe, into the three worlds, Krishna mentions, Yo Lokatrayam Avishya Vivarti Avya Ishvaraha. So very nicely, explanation was given, quoting from the Upanishads, wherein a similar statement exists. Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko bahunam viradhati kaman. There is one Nitya, one eternal, and there is one Chetana, one conscious entity, supreme conscious entity, who is maintaining innumerable eternals, innumerable, and he is known as the supreme personality of Godhead. He is the supreme living personality who maintains all of these innumerable Nityas, innumerable Chetanas, and gives them all the facility of enjoyment according to one's different work. And this Supreme Personality of Godhead is also situated as Paramatma in the heart of every living entity. An intelligent person or the wise person who understands this, the Upanishad states that he can attain the real peace or the supreme peace or the perfect peace and not others. So this was the explanation which Krishna gave in verse number 17. In verse 18, Krishna further confirms his position that because Krishna's position is Purushottama, which means he is actually greatest personality amongst all the personalities. The supreme personality amongst all the personalities. Krishna declares in verse 18 that he is Atitoham, he is transcendental. He is not like ordinary living entities in the material world who are embodied, who are having a material body. He is supreme entity having a spiritual body. He is transcendental, Divya. As Krishna says in 4th chapter, Janma Karma Chame Divyam. Divya means transcendental, spiritual. And Krishna also says that he is the greatest. Uttamaha. Aksharadavi Uttamaha. Right? He is not only Divya, he is also the greatest. And all the worlds celebrated him. In the Vedas also celebrated him as Purushottama. So this entire chapter is known as Purushottama Yoga, which means understanding about the Supreme Lord as the greatest personality. The whole misconception in the material world is that we equate Lord Krishna with ordinary living entities. That is the problem. Right? Mostly people consider that any powerful person is like God, or any ordinary person, that is the wrong. So this chapter is to establish the fact that living entities are not on the same level with Lord Krishna. Krishna is always superior. In 7th chapter Bhagavad Gita, we again get a reference where Krishna says, Mattaha parataram na anyat. There is nobody superior to me. There is nobody equal to me. Asama urdhva, the Vedas say, Krishna has no equal or nobody superior to him. These are all statements again to establish about the position of Krishna. Even though Krishna descends as an ordinary human being for our vision, but he is not an ordinary person. Krishna always is Atitoham, he is transcendental, he is Divya, he is Purushottama. These things we have to be always remembering behind. Similarly, the holy name, who is descending as the all-powerful sound God, he is not ordinary personality. He is Atitoham, he is transcendental, he is greatest Purushottama. He has come just to deliver us. This is what all the Vedas and all the 3 worlds, all the great sages know about him. So this is the point which Prabhupada is trying to explain us in verse number 18, that no one can surpass the Supreme Lord, neither the conditioned soul nor the liberated soul. Not just because I have become liberated, I have not become equal to Krishna or I am greater than Krishna. No, that is a wrong understanding. In fact, there's a class of transcendentalists called Mayavadis who falsely claim that they have become one with Narayana. Or they have become one with absolute truth. That is a wrong understanding. Right? So very clearly Krishna is explaining us here that nobody can become equal to him at any stage of life. That's why he's known as the greatest personality. And this is the main difference between the living entities and conditioned souls. Whether in the the conditioned state or the liberated state, the living entities and the Supreme Lord, is that nobody can be equal to him or nobody can be superior to him. Nobody can surpass with regard to the inconceivable potencies of Krishna. That is the point. So this much Krishna has told in verse 16, 17, 18. There are two classes of living entities, fallible, infallible. Above them, there is Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Supreme Personality of Godhead is transcendental, is greatest, and he is known as Purushottama. Nobody is equal to him or nobody is superior to him. In fact, he is that Supreme Personality who is maintaining everybody. That is the point. Okay. Now, let us go to the verse number 19. So verse 19 reads like this. Yo mam evam asammudho janati purushottamam sas sarvavid bhajati imam sarva bhavena bharata. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is to be understood as the knower of everything, and he therefore engages himself in full devotional service, O son of Bharata. It's a very nice statement which Krishna is making here. Krishna is telling, Yomam evam asammudaha. Means anyone who knows me or understands me, mam evam asammudaha, without any doubt. Janati purushottamam. Anyone knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead or the greatest personality of Godhead or Uttama Purusha, Purushottama. So he is supposed to be knowing everything. Sa sarvaved. Then what is the result of knowing Krishna as everything? Result will be bhajati mam sarva bhavena bharata. He, that person, when he knows that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he comes to the platform of understanding that he knows everything. And he therefore engages in full devotional service, O son of Bharata. This statement already seems to be very familiar to us because we find a similar statement in 10th chapter also. Where Krishna says, when you know that I am the source of everything, aham sarvasya prabhavo mattas sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samannita. Krishna was mentioning in the 10th chapter, verse number 8, very clearly, that one who knows me as the source of everything, all the spiritual and material worlds, everything is emanating from me. Mattas sarvam pravartate. When an intelligent person comes to this understanding and he is in the perfect knowledge like this, he'll engage in Krishna's devotional service. Buddha bhava samanvita bhajante mam. Right? Similarly, in 7th chapter, 19th verse, Krishna mentioned that bahunam janmanam ante jnanvan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabha. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes. Vasudeva sarvamiti. Such a great soul is very rare, Krishna says. So, already Krishna has given this concept understanding with regard to knowing Krishna means we know everything. There's a Vedic statement which says, Yasmin vignatam sarvam eva vignatam bhavanti. When you know Krishna, you automatically know everything. There's nothing further to be known. In the same context, if you satisfy Krishna, you're satisfying everyone. That is the point. It's a nice, wonderful incident in this regard. In the Mahabharata, when Krishna and when Pandavas were in exile, Vanavasa. So at that time, Duryodhana wanted to further give trouble to the Pandavas. So when Durvasa Muni came to Hastinapura, Duryodhana took care of him very well. And Durvasa Muni is having a nature that when he is satisfied, he can give you any benediction. Same Durvasa Muni, when he is dissatisfied, he can give big curse also. That is what Durvasa Muni is. So Duryodhana planned that Durvasa should visit Pandavas when Pandavas, everybody, including Draupadi, had taken their lunch, meals. Because Pandavas had been blessed with a special vessel known as Akshaya Patra, wherein Sun God had given them a nice vessel. Draupadi could feed any number of guests as long as she had not taken food at the end. For that day, that vessel will not give any more food. That was the benediction which they had got. They had got a nice vessel, Akshaya Patra. So we have got the name Akshaya Patra for our program, wherein every day we are feeding more than 18 lakh children. And during the COVID, we have already fed around 7 crore people in different parts of the country. So Akshaya Patra basically means unlimited food. So Durvasa Muni agreed with Duryodhana because he was pleased with Duryodhana, and he went to the Pandavas' place in the forest when they were just finished their meal. Even Draupadi had finished her meal. So when Durvasa Muni with his 10,000 disciples had come there, the Pandavas became very panicking. Oh, if Durvasa Muni is dissatisfied, we will be very much in trouble. So what to do? What to do? So meanwhile, Bhimasena told Durvasa Muni and all the disciples, dear great sage, why don't you go and take bath afternoon and with all your disciples? Meanwhile, we'll make the arrangements. So here in the kitchen, Draupadi was in great anxiety with an empty vessel because she already had taken her meals and she had washed the pots and kept. Now for devotees, when they're in danger, the only shelter is Lord Krishna. Immediately, Draupadi started praying to Lord Krishna intensely. Krishna was there immediately in the situation. And Krishna told Draupadi, why didn't you get me that vessel wherein you every day serve food to so many people? Let me see if something is there. Some food must be there in that. Draupadi said, no, I have washed thoroughly. I know nothing is there. How can there be anything? No, doesn't matter. You bring, please, let me see. When the vessel was brought, the Akshaya Patra was brought, Krishna found out a small grain of rice with some vegetables stuck to one corner, which Draupadi had missed out cleaning thoroughly. So Krishna just took that one grain with that vegetable and eat it. And as soon as Krishna ate that, all the sages here in the river who were all taking bath, Durvasa Muni with 10,000 disciples, everybody started feeling as though their stomach was filled up. And they all thought, now Yudhisthira Maharaj and all the Pandavas would have made a big feast for us. If we go there, we cannot have. So let us silently go away from here. So they didn't even come to Pandavas' place. They went away. So this is a wonderful story from Mahabharata, depicting the fact that Krishna is satisfied, everybody is satisfied. You know about Krishna, you know about everything. That is the point which Krishna is telling us here. In Sarvavid, you know about Krishna without any doubt, which means whatever extent Krishna has explained to us in Bhagavad Gita, if you try to know, then you know everything. And what is the result of knowing everything? Krishna says, by knowing like this, the result is that he will engage in Krishna's service without any doubt. He will engage in full Krishna consciousness. He will engage in Sarva Bhavena Bharata Bhajati Mam. Bhajana means engaging in practical devotional service with Krishna. Right? So bhajana doesn't mean that any devata you worship or any powerful person you worship, any ordinary person you worship, any politician or any film star or any sports star or any celebrity you would worship, you will get the same result. No. Bhajana basically means bhajana is only connected with Krishna's service. Right? If you remember, even in the 6th chapter, towards the end of the 6th chapter, there is the last verse of 6th chapter also, Krishna similarly says, bhajate. He says, Yogina vi sarvesham madgate nantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate ma same yukta tamo mataha. This is verse number 47, 6th chapter. So bhajana basically is only uh, uh, is just going to give us the understanding that it is in connection or relationship with the service of Lord Krishna. Because Prabhupada explains in that 47th verse of 6th chapter, the meaning of the word bhajate. Bhajate mam, Krishna also says there. What does bhajate mam means? Rendering transcendental service. Bhajata, word bhaja. Bhajate has its root in its verb bhaj, which is used where there is need of service. Right? Whereas English word worship cannot be used as the same as the word bhaja. Because worship basically means adore, or to show respect to someone, or to honor somebody whom you respect. But service with love and faith is especially meant for the Supreme Lord. But bhaja means service. So the word bhajana, when Krishna is using in the Bhagavad Gita very frequently, it only means it is in connection with service to Krishna with love and faith. Right? Because you can avoid worshipping a respectable person. Right now, you may have a respect. It's like politicians when they're in power. We show so much of respect. As soon as they're out of power, they'll not have any respect. Similarly, sports stars, when they are actually active in their sports career, people respect. Once he's out of the sports career actively, nobody will respect him. Same with any person who is in the position also. Say a person who is in the position of a big organization's very big position. People respect him. As soon as there is no position, nobody respects him. That is the point. So the aspect of worship is very, very situation. A person can be respected, or devata can be respected, or we can disrespect somebody based on their different positions and different situations. But we cannot avoid serving the Supreme Lord. This is the constitutional position of Krishna and living entity. Because living entity's situation is that. What did we understand in 7th verse of this chapter, 15th chapter? Mamai vamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. The living entity are eternally fragmented part and parcel of Krishna. They cannot be isolated or living separated any point of time. They're always connected very intimately with Krishna. Just like our bodily parts are all intimately connected with us as different parts of my body. And the bodily parts, what is the function of the bodily parts? They're supposed to serve my body. Right? Service, just see. Right? If they don't serve, even though they're in the body, they'll become useless. Likewise, the living entities, when they understand about Krishna, understanding Krishna means what? Krishna is Purushottama. We are subordinate living entities. When we are in oneness with Krishna, which means when we agree with Krishna's plans and Krishna's desires, then we are called liberated souls. When we disagree with Krishna, we are called conditioned souls. So this is what it means. When you say that when you know Krishna, you know everything, it means you know all these aspects. One more example Srila Prabhupada gives us. In darkness, you cannot see yourself, you cannot see anything around you. When you go to the light, or when you come under the sun, you don't not only see yourself, you also see the sun, you see everything around. That is the meaning of knowing everything. So when you know Krishna, you will also know that you are individual entity, you are part and parcel of Krishna. You will also know that Krishna's creation is very beautiful, very wonderful. He has manifested all these things just for my deliverance. This is called knowing everything. Okay. So when you come to this point of knowing everything, the next automatic result will be that you will do bhajana. What is bhajana? Service with faith and love. That is what very nicely Prabhupada is explaining here. If a person is engaged in full Krishna consciousness in devotional service of the Lord, it is to be understood that he has all the knowledge, understanding with him. Right? So when you know everything, when you know about Krishna means you know everything, the next result will be you'll be engaging in devotional service to Krishna. Complete devotional service to Krishna. As Krishna mentions here, Bhajati Mam Sarva Bhavena Bharata. Oh, I know Krishna, but I'm not doing service, which means you don't know Krishna. If you know Krishna, the result will be, as Bhagavad Gita is telling us, the next result will be you'll start worshipping him. Just like ordinarily also you see, you know about somebody. Somebody is, oh, he's a very great person, or he's a very special person, he's a very knowledgeable person. What happens? Automatically, your respect toward person increases. You start thinking about him. You start, again, talking about him to others. You know, that person I saw is doing that, this. Krishna is that personality who is having all the qualities, wonderful qualities, all the opulences which we have read in the previous chapters. How much more we should be talking about Krishna? How much more we should be remembering Krishna? Just imagine. That's the point which Krishna is telling. When you know that Krishna is everything, then Krishna is ultimate cause of all causes. Then the next automatic result will be you will be only doing bhajana of Krishna. Bhajate mam sarva bhavena bharata. He engages in devotional service to Krishna very nicely. Right? So very nicely, Prabhupada explains that this is how in the Vaishnava Parampara, if one is engaged in devotional service to Krishna, it is understood that there is no need for any other spiritual process or spiritual discipline for that person, or any other understanding is required for him to know about absolute truth. He has already come to the point of perfection of his life. That is the highest perfection Krishna is telling us here. When you engage in Krishna's service, you have reached the perfection of your life. Right? Any other process other than devotional service, which means still you are in a different stage of your life. When you come to the point of rendering devotional service to Krishna, that is the topmost, supermost, highest. Right? Any other process, jnana process, or yoga process, or karma process, anything, they're all different levels which can bring you to one level, one stage of your progress in the path of bhakti. But the highest level of bhakti is what? Constantly engaging in full devotional service to Krishna. This can happen when you just know about Krishna as Krishna is describing in Bhagavad Gita. That's it. Right? So this is what Prabhupada is explaining us here in the purport, that there are many philosophical speculations about the position or constitutional aspect of what is Krishna, what is living entity, what is supreme absolute truth. There are so many theories, so many speculations. People have come up with so many theories, and also there are so many sort of understandings that we are all light, we are all energy, so many so many things. Ultimately, we all become impersonal, nirakara, like this. Whereas in this verse, very clearly, Krishna is explaining that understanding about Krishna as supreme personality of God, Purushottama, and we living entities as part and parcel of him, he becomes known as the knower of everything. Sa Sarvavit. Everything means he knows that Krishna's every aspect, as Krishna explains, that I am also the Brahmajyoti, I am also Paramatma in every entity, in every living entity, and every atom, and also I am situated as Bhagavan. Everything that personality knows. Whereas if you are not, if your understanding is not come to this point of perfection with regard to knowing Krishna, any other understanding is imperfect. As Prabhupada says, the imperfect knower goes on simply speculating about absolute truth. Right? So ultimately, absolute truth is this energy, this is impersonal light, or is something. So like this, it goes on. If you see so many philosophies, so many doctrines, so many religions in the world, there are so much speculations about who is the ultimate truth. What is the form of it? What is the that absolute truth? Who is that absolute truth? Whereas Bhagavad Gita very clearly is giving us directions that throughout the Gita, this fact of Krishna being the supreme personality is being stressed at every step. That is the speciality of Bhagavad Gita. That's why Bhagavad Gita is considered to be the most important scripture in this whole universe. Just read Bhagavad Gita, your life will become perfect. Because this aspect of perfection for a living entity, that he is part and parcel of Krishna, Krishna is supreme, he is maintaining us. This aspect is stressed throughout the Gita in a different manner. Just understanding Gita will bring you to this conclusion. You will know everything, nothing else to be known. So Prabhupada says, still there are so many stubborn commentators on Gita who consider the supreme absolute truth and the living entities as same, to be one and the same. This is again a wrong understanding. It's like, very clearly it was being warned in the previous verse purports that Krishna and ordinary living entity cannot be same. Nobody can surpass Krishna's greatness. Krishna is asama urdhva. Nobody can equal him, nobody can be superior to him. But even then, because of our imperfect understanding of Krishna, we come to this sort of a knowledge. A very nice statement Prabhupada makes in one of the in his writings. He says, all imperfect understanding of supreme, absolute, perfect, complete personality is because of our imperfect knowledge of the complete, because of our ignorance of the complete perfect. Otherwise, Supreme Lord is his knowledge is complete and perfect. His existence is complete and perfect. His activities are complete and perfect. Our imperfect knowledge, our ignorance of his activities is what is leading us to imperfectness in us, not in Krishna. That is the point. So, like this, the knowledge, what is given in Bhagavad Gita, should be properly heard from authoritative source and understood in a nice way. That's why the Vedic literatures are known as Shruti. One should actually receive the knowledge from authorities. The parampara, as Krishna says in 4th chapter, 2nd verse, Evam parampara praptam imam rajashyo viduhu. This knowledge about Krishna and Krishna's transcendental nature and how Krishna is the Supreme Lord, living entities are subordinate to him, is very nicely passed down in the chain of guru-disciple. It's called disciplic succession. Parampara. So we should have a proper understanding of the right authorized knowledge in the parampara. Not that anybody says, I know about Krishna, I know about the purpose of creation. No, what is your source? What is your reference? You cannot speculate about all these important subject matters. That's the point. So here very clearly, Krishna is telling us that without doubt means you are taking knowledge from a source which is perfect. In the material world, all of us are imperfect. Why? Because we have 4 defects. We all commit mistakes. Nobody can say I've never committed a mistake in my life. We are all illusioned, think that I am this body. Right? We have a cheating propensity. Right? And we have, fourthly, we all have imperfect senses. Our senses are not perfect. Our eyes cannot see perfectly. Our ears cannot see perfectly. We cannot smell perfectly. We have a lot of limitations with our understanding. So we are imperfect. Because of which anything we do or we concoct or we manufacture is all imperfect. Whereas Krishna's existence, Krishna's way of functioning is that whatever comes out of Krishna, anything about Krishna is perfect without doubt. Asammudaha is the point. So to get asammuda knowledge, we have to take it from the disciplic succession, parampara, from authorized source, from Krishna and his representatives. So very nicely, Krishna is distinguishing here that one should hear from authentic source, not simply imagine or manufacture or concoct or take it from an unauthentic source. No. Very strong statement Prabhupada makes in his purport of 19th verse, 15th chapter. Simply to hear like hawks is not sufficient. One must be able to understand from the authorities. Again, when you are hearing, you should hear with proper attention, with full involvement, and seeing that you try to understand as much as possible. When your endeavor is there to understand, Krishna also helps. When you're doing just as a formality with force or just, why I'm doing this, like a burden, then Krishna also sees your intention. That's what Prabhupada means here. Not simply to hear like hawks. Hawks are like, dull and dumb animals who don't want to understand anything spiritual. Whereas human life is given the faculty of hearing, understanding about subject matters of spiritual understanding. So we need to involve ourselves wholeheartedly in understanding these subject matters. When you have this intention, Krishna as Paramatma will help. Because sitting as Paramatma already. Oh, he immediately senses, oh, this person wants to know about me. He will help us. He'll give all the sufficient intelligence for us to understand all these complicated subject matters. That is the point. Right? So, one should submissively hear from Bhagavad Gita. And when you submissively do this hearing, then Krishna also will reciprocate in a way that he will cleanse our heart and he will lighten up our heart with complete understanding, complete knowledge. So in this way, Prabhupada says, anyone who is able to understand this knowledge according to Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, knows the purpose of the Vedas. He knows everything, Sarvavid. Otherwise, we cannot know what is the purpose of Vedas. We'll be lost, we'll be bewildered. People make so many comments, give so many understandings about what is Veda, what is this, what is that. Completely confused. Nobody knows what is the actual purpose of Vedas. Very simple language Krishna is explaining. The purpose of Vedas is to know Krishna. Very simple understanding Krishna is summarizing in verse 16 onwards. There are two classes of living entities, fallible, infallible, that is conditioned and liberated. We are right now conditioned. If you make up our determination that we want to become liberated, you have to work in the direction and take up the instructions of Krishna submissively, then we can become liberated. Or we can again reinstate ourselves as liberated souls. Actually, we are liberated, but right now, by our own thinking and by our own illusion, we are conditioned. We can become liberated. Muktir hitva anyatha rupena swarupena vyavasthitihi. Right? When you reinstate ourselves as the servants, subordinate to Krishna, that is called mukti. That's what Bhagavatam explains to us. So like this, Krishna very clearly says that it is left to our individual voluntary surrender to Krishna, voluntary submitting ourselves to Krishna, that I want to know Krishna, I want to serve Krishna. Then Krishna automatically reveals himself to us. Right? It is a very mystical process. We have to subject ourselves to this mystical process with our sincerity, with our seriousness. Okay, so we'll move to the last verse of this chapter, 20th verse. Yes, verse number 20 reads like this: Iti guhyatamam shastram idam uktam maya nagha etad buddhva buddhiman syat krita krityascha bharata. In a very wonderful verse. The conclusion of this verse, conclusion of this chapter, 20th verse, Krishna is telling, Iti guhyatamam shastra. This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures. O sinless one, and it is disclosed now by me. Whoever understands this will become wise and his endeavors will know perfection. A very beautiful ending. Right? So, Krishna is telling that this is the most confidential part of the Vedas. Remember, even the 9th chapter was known as the most confidential knowledge. Here Krishna is revealing further more confidential understanding. So he's telling very clearly here that this is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures. Which one? What Krishna has just now discussed from verses 16 onwards. That we are living entities, we are part and parcel of Krishna. Right now we are conditioned. If we decide that to follow the path of bhakti, we can become liberated. Because liberation means being in line with Krishna's desires, Krishna's plans. Right now, as conditioned souls, we have our own plans, our own desires, our own ways of working, our own ways of gratifying our senses. So sooner we align ourselves with Krishna's plans, we are on the path of liberation. And above the liberated souls and the conditioned souls, there is Supreme Lord Krishna as Supreme Nitya, Supreme Chetana, who is maintaining everybody according to their different necessities, their desires. And this Supreme Personality of Godhead is transcendental. And nobody can surpass him. He is Purushottama. He is the greatest personality. This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures. So Krishna is telling to Arjuna, actually, Arjuna, you are Maya Anagha. You are Anagha. You are a sinless personality. And this knowledge, I am disclosing it to you because you are completely free from sins. Now, you should always remember, Arjuna is a pure devotee who is playing the role of a conditioned soul as per Krishna's desire. Because without Arjuna, his pure devotee playing that role of an illusion person, Bhagavad Gita would not have come out. Bhagavad Gita would not be revealed. So Krishna chooses his devotees and he puts them under this role of being conditioned for time being. Looks like Arjuna is conditioned, but actually Arjuna's position is what? Krishna himself has told in 4th chapter, 3rd verse. Bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasya me taduttamam. Arjuna, I am choosing you to be the recipient of this Bhagavad Gita knowledge because you are my devotee. You are my friend. And this very confidential mystery, I am revealing it to you, Krishna says. So here, Arjuna being addressed as Anaga is very significant. Why? Because unless you are freed from all sins or sinful reactions, it is not easy to understand Krishna. So Krishna is telling us here that I am speaking to you this most supreme confidential aspect of understanding, Arjuna, because you are sinless. This indicates that we also should take up the path of becoming free from sinful reactions. We have to become free from all the contamination of sinful activities. Then we can understand Krishna. How can you become free from sinful reactions? Krishna recommends in the end of the 18th chapter, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma suchaha. What does Krishna say? Just surrender unto me wholeheartedly. I will relieve you from all sinful reactions. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Just come to my shelter, to me. Under my shelter you come, then sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami. I will deliver you from all the sinful reactions. This is Krishna's personal assurance to all of us. Simply we have to take shelter of Krishna. Which means we have to wholeheartedly surrender to Krishna. Wholeheartedly surrender means we have to follow the principles of surrender. As you were discussing in the previous session, 6 principles of surrender. Anukulyasya sankalpaha. See that we only accept things favorable to Krishna's service. Pratakulyasya varjanam. We reject things which are not favorable to Krishna's service. Rakshishyatiti vishwasaha. Always have complete confidence that Krishna is going to give me protection. Krishna is my protector. Goptrutve varanam tatha. Krishna is my only maintainer. Right? Atma nikshepa. You have no independent desires other than desire for serving Krishna. This is called Atma nikshepa. And karpanye, practicing humility, the aspect of pridelessness. Making an understanding that I'm insignificant. I'm an insignificant living entity who is just in the material world with my conditioned desires. I have to simply serve Krishna, not with full of pride and arrogance and puffed up. No, that is not a proper attitude. So these 6 principles of surrender, if you are following, you are known as a surrendered soul. And when you surrender like this, when your activities are completely dedicated to Krishna like this, then Krishna says, I will take charge and I will relieve you from all sinful activities. Sarva papebhya mokshayishyami. And Krishna assures, don't worry. This is the significance of the word here, which Krishna says, Anagha to Arjuna. So we have to also see that we practice this process of surrender. In this chapter also, Krishna has explained to us about the process of surrender in the verse number 5. Right? He was giving us 5 important instructions of process of surrender. Nirmana, right? Becoming prideless. Then nirmoha, becoming free from illusion. Chitasanga dosha, which means be free from false association or fake association of this material world. Adhyatma nitya, you have to cultivate spiritual understanding, spiritual knowledge in association with devotees. And vinivritta kama dvandve vimukta. When you're doing this cultivation of spiritual knowledge, you become free from pride, you become free from illusion, you become free from false association, and automatically you'll become free from all the dualities of the material world. You'll become free from all the unconditional, contaminated sort of a desires which otherwise drives the living entities. Right? You become free from all the materialistic conceptions of life. That is the point. Krishna says, in this way you can proceed straight towards the spiritual journey, spiritual destination. So, engaging in devotional service is so powerful, so potent, that simply being engaged in devotional service, you're automatically getting purified. That is the point. Right? So, somehow we have to be engaged in devotional service always. That's the reason we have been repeatedly telling that we have to chant Hare Krishna a fixed number of rounds every day. We have to read Bhagavad Gita every day and try to speak about Bhagavad Gita to at least to our family members or close friends and relatives. We have to offer food and have only Krishna Prasadam. And lastly, always worship Krishna in whatever best possible way you can do. So these four activities will keep us on the path of devotional service, a very powerful and potent process which is automatically going to purify you gradually and bring you to the point of sinlessness. Right? It is the point. So now, further, Krishna is telling us here that Krishna is telling all the scriptures have to reveal to us. Krishna is revealing to us in these few verses, last verses of this 15th chapter. Just understanding this means you know the entire Vedic literatures. And Krishna says, understanding this knowledge will make you intelligent. Etad buddhva buddhiman syat. Whoever understands this will become wise. Thus one will become intelligent and perfect in transcendental knowledge. So just having some material knowledge of some department of understanding, some department, say mechanical or civil or some medical or business or so many things we have, so many different branches of knowledge we have. So this knowledge is not considered to be intelligent knowledge as per the Bhagavad Gita's understanding. They are all on the material platform. Whereas understanding about soul, understanding about my relationship with Supreme Soul, this is intelligent knowledge. This is considered to be most intelligent knowledge, most perfect knowledge, according to Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Right? So, understanding about Krishna and also engaging in Krishna's service, Krishna says that this is the highest understanding. And in this way, you can become free from all the contaminations, all the different entanglements in the material world. You can become free from material modes of nature. Right? So in that way, the process of devotional service is a very wonderful process, which is a spiritual process, which will automatically give you the understanding of Krishna. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayati Asha Vairagyam Jnanam Ahaitukam. Bhagavatam says, when you engage in Krishna's service, devotional service, it is so potent that simply engaging in Krishna's service is going to give you the detachment from the material world and also sufficient understanding of what is what. That is the power of this devotional service. Separately, you need not endeavor to develop knowledge and understanding. Krishna's way of working is so potent in devotional service is that he will start revealing us the knowledge. That's the point. Right? You also endeavor from externally to serve him very nicely, follow the instructions of Guru, Sadhu Shastra. Krishna also works from internally revealing this knowledge. It's called Divya Gyan Hriday Prakashito. Okay? Again, to remind everybody, you can write your comments or questions in the comment box, either in Facebook or YouTube live, what is happening now. Towards another few more minutes, we'll conclude the session and we'll take up the questions and comments. Okay, like this, very nicely, Srila Prabhupada is explaining that Krishna is mentioning in this verse that you will become most intelligent. Buddhva buddhimam syat, etat buddhva buddhimam syat. Whoever comes to this level of understanding becomes very wise, very intelligent. And what happens? Krishna says, Kritakrityascha Bharata. His endeavors will know perfection. Any endeavor in the material world, you may be known as a successful businessman, successful some professional person or whatever it is. All the success is only going to last with your body. This body's life is over, then all your success is in the books of history over. Whereas you becoming devotee and becoming successful in going back to Godhead, that is the final success, actual perfection. Right? That is the perfection of your life. Krishna says, your endeavor will have proper perfection if you engage in Krishna's service. Right? So, when you do a devotional service, automatically the material contamination is not there. You're transcended the modes of material nature. And Krishna's service means it is spiritual. Anything done for Krishna. Svalpamapiyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Right? Even little endeavor on this path can give you greatest benefit of being out of this material world. Very nicely, Chaitanya Charitamrita explains that Krishna's service is like Surya. Krishna Surya Sama Maya Andhakara. Yahan Krishna Taha Nahi Mayara Adhikara. Wherever there is Krishna, there is always brightness like sunshine. It is shining with knowledge. You are completely aware of what is happening. Whereas when you don't have service to Krishna, you're in total darkness. You're in darkness means what you're doing yourself, you don't know. That is the point. When you are in complete light, you know everything very clear, as we just now understood with an example. When you go to light, you see yourself and everything else. That is the point. So engaging or keeping yourself in Krishna's service under the proper guidance of Srila Prabhupada, as he has given in this purpose of Bhagavad Gita, then there is no question of any ignorance. Right? Very nicely, the Prabhupada has given us a complete schedule throughout the day what we should do. Minute by minute. What time you have to get up, what you have to do after that. Whole day, how to engage yourself in Krishna service. When you engage in Krishna service means what? Come to one step behind, which means you know about Krishna. When you know about Krishna, it means you know everything. That is the point. So like this, the recommendation given here is that everybody should take this to this path of Krishna consciousness wholeheartedly and engage in Krishna's service for two important purposes. As Krishna says here, to become very wise, intelligent, and also to become purified of the material contamination. Otherwise, if you don't take a Krishna consciousness, you will remain dull, you will remain unintelligent, and you will always remain contaminated in the material world. Right? Contaminated life means sinful life. Sinful life means continued material existence. Right? So unless you come to this point of engaging in Krishna's service, you may be very highly placed person in terms of society, material world, or very intelligent person, very accomplished person. Or you may be a very big man in the estimation of a common man. But from the Bhagavad Gita's point of view, from Krishna's point of view, you are not sufficiently intelligent. Because unless you are taken to Krishna's service, as Krishna is confirming here, etad buddhva buddhimam syat. One who knows this knowledge, he is actually a wise person. Who understands this is a wise person. And his endeavors will know perfection. So, this is the conclusion, and Prabhupada very nicely makes a very short understanding with regard to what we have to understand from this 15th chapter. In the last paragraph of this purport, Prabhupada makes very nice statements. So, we have begun this chapter with understanding that our material desire is what is making us our stay in the material world. So we have to change our quality of desire. Right? So the most important thing which we need to overcome or surmount is the weakness of our heart. What is the weakness of the heart? A similar weakness of the heart, this phrase was used in the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita also. Arjuna was overcome by the weakness of the heart. Hridaya daurbalyam, karpanya dosho, vahatasvabhava. Even Karpanya dosha means your miserly weakness. What is the weakness of the heart? First weakness is that I want to become Lord of this material world. I desire to be Lord of this material world. Right? And because of which Krishna bhulya jiva bhogavancha kare. Because of which I forget Krishna's service and I want to be independent in the material world. This is the first symptom of weakness of the heart. And after this, what happens? The second weakness of the heart, Prabhupada says, is that when you're developed, when you have already taken a decision, desire that I want to enjoy the material world, this propensity to enjoy the world increases, or propensity to lord over this material world increases. What are symptoms of propensity of lording over increase means? Propensity of lording over increase means your attachment to the material world in terms of matter. That this is mine. Aha, griha, kshetra, suta, apta, vittai, janasya mohoyam. Right? You think my body, my bodily connection, this work I am doing, this place I am having, this is mine, this I and mine concept goes on increasing. The whole problem on this, the whole entanglement and the whole problem with the conditioned soul is that this disease of I and mine. So this all has begun with the desire that I don't want to serve Krishna. So the root cause of I don't want to serve Krishna, if it is transformed into yes, I want to serve Krishna, everything else will become very nice and very wonderful. That's the whole instruction of this 15th chapter. Right? Now, if we just change our quality of desire that I want to serve Krishna, I want to engage in service of Krishna wholeheartedly, I want to work under the guidance of a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada, I want to be in association of devotees, then your whole life changes. Then you come to the platform of proper understanding and you're on the path of liberation. So like this, Prabhupada concludes this chapter, 15th chapter, very wonderful chapter. I request all of you to go through the verses again, read the purports carefully. Very small chapter, but a very powerful chapter with a very powerful message. So this ends our 15th chapter. We'll begin with a new chapter next session. I have a few questions which has come up in the YouTube and the Facebook platforms. First question is, how will I get more knowledge about Krishna? Right. How will I get more knowledge? Just as we have just now discussed, we have to subject, or rather we have to submit ourselves to Srila Prabhupada's movement. At least submit yourself to reading Bhagavad Gita every day. It is written by Srila Prabhupada, Bhagavad Gita as it is. Carefully go through them every day and try to follow them as much as possible. Then Krishna very clearly says that he will reveal the knowledge to us. See, transcendental knowledge is not that we can grab it. Maybe we can read something. But your involvement in bhakti process, that's why I quoted one verse from Bhagavatam. The verse which I quoted was, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Dahetukam. Bhagavatam says, engaging yourself in devotional service wholeheartedly, Krishna will give you all the necessary knowledge and vairagya, detachment from this material world. So how do you perform devotional service? Next question will be, chant Hare Krishna every day. If you are not started chanting, at least begin with one round of chanting Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Every day chant minimum 108 times Hare Krishna. Right? This will invoke special blessings of Krishna. Krishna will reveal knowledge. More knowledge will be revealed to you. Because your heart is getting cleansed, Krishna will reveal more knowledge. Second, try to read Bhagavad Gita. Krishna has given his whole intelligence in this. Connect your intelligence with Krishna's intelligence. Again, enriching your spiritual knowledge. Thirdly, have Krishna Prasadam. Krishna Prasadam will only purify you, and more purification means more receptive will become with this knowledge, more knowledge again. And Krishna says, worship me, just offer your respects to me. When you do this, what Krishna is telling us, again you're getting purified, you'll get more knowledge. Right? So engaging yourself in the authentic manner, the way Krishna is telling us, the way Srila Prabhupada is explaining to us in the Bhagavad Gita, will give you more knowledge. Okay. So one more question. Please tell the points for surrender to Krishna again. Okay, I'll repeat. First point is called Anukulyasya Sankalpaha. Means accepting things favorable for Krishna's service. Like we are recommending chant Hare Krishna, read Bhagavad Gita, get up early in the morning, follow Ekadashi. These are called accepting favorable things. These are all favorable for our progress in Bhakti. Then point number 2, second point of surrender is Pratikulyasya Varjanam. Rejecting things which are not favorable for my progress in Bhakti. What are they? No meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication. They are going to destroy your Bhakti. They're going to destroy your surrender to Krishna. They're going to withhold. That's why, people are so sinful all over. You see, they're not able to surrender because they're doing sinful activities. Eating meat, consuming liquor, engaged in gambling, illicit sex, because of which they're not able to surrender to Krishna. That is point number 2. So accepting things favorable, point number 1. Rejecting things unfavorable, point number 2. Third point, to accept Krishna as our protector. Rakshishatiti Vishwasaha. Actually, if you see, who is going to protect us finally in our life? Whatever means and whatever different counteractive measures you have, finally Krishna only has to save us and protect us. Present situation of COVID, you see, so many things are happening. Unless and until Krishna decides, okay, let this vaccine be discovered or let this arrangement be there, nothing can happen. This is exactly what Prahlad Maharaj prays to Lord Narasimha, that there may be the best of the medicines, best of the doctors, unless Krishna desires that this person has to be saved, nothing can save. So Krishna is called the ultimate protector or the real protector. This confidence that Krishna is going to save me, protect me. Avashya Rakshipe Krishna. This is third point of surrender. Always have this consciousness within us. And fourthly, Krishna is maintaining me. It's a fact, no? We have understood this point in the 15th chapter, verse number 12 onwards, wherein Krishna has told us He has created the sun, He has created the moon, by sun is giving us profuse heat and light. By moon, He is nourishing all the vegetables, making it very tasty, succulent, and very juicy. And not only that, He is also seated as a fire of digestion in our stomach and digesting our food. As Paramatma is sitting and reminding about what we should do. It is all His mercy of how He is maintaining us. And for one moment, the air is withdrawn, or for a few moments, what happens? We'll all be suffocating. So Krishna is providing us air, water, light, everything for our subsistence. So understanding and realizing this, Krishna is already providing us every facility in our life. And we should be more and more obliged to Him. This is called the fourth point of surrender, known as Krishna is our maintainer. So accepting things favorable, rejecting things unfavorable. Krishna is the only protector. Krishna is the only maintainer. And fifthly, we don't have independent desires. We don't have independent plans. Our whole desire and plan is in line with Krishna's plans and desires. We align our actions as per Krishna's plan. So Krishna has very clearly described what is His plan in this Bhagavad Gita. Just following this plan of Krishna, aligning ourselves with the plan of Krishna, dovetailing ourselves with the plan of Krishna, called Atma Nikshepa. Then the last point is called Karpanye, understanding and or maintaining ourselves, or rather keeping ourselves very humble. Because the material conception of life means you are very proud of your knowledge, of your talent, of your wealth, of your so many things. You think, oh, I am from such a family, I am from such a big heritage, I belong to this very good place, I have so much of wealth, I have so much of knowledge, I have so much of creativity. People are very proud of their possessions. Within no time, Krishna can take away all these possessions. Right? You can be, again, to a position of wherein you are nothing. Right? So all the things, the different energies, different strengths, what we have in our body, the various different faculties of intelligence and knowledge, what we have, is all Krishna's blessing, is all Krishna given. Understanding this and always trying to be very much, having a proper sense of respect to every living entity. And every living entity is part and parcel of Krishna. Every living entity has come to this material world for fulfilling their own, particular desires. But all of them are actually Krishna's part and parcels. All of them are actually servants of Krishna. I had to have proper respect for everybody. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Amanina Manadena. Others may not respect you, but you give respect to everybody. Always maintain the attitude of tolerance. Trunadapi sunichena. Tarorapi shaishtuna. Like a tree, you be tolerant. Like a grass, you be humbler. This is called humility. So practicing these 6 principles of surrender is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us instructions. Is going to make us gradually progress on the path of bhakti. In every activity, we should apply these principles of surrender. Then our path of bhakti, our path of progress towards the supreme destination is becoming very clear. On the contrary, we are not applying these principles. We are doing our own way of doing things in our life. Then we will not be able to progress in path of bhakti. So it is very imperative that we consciously apply these 6 principles of surrender in our day-to-day lives for our own progress, steady progress in bhakti. I hope I have answered this question. I think we already overshot the time now. So we close today. We have completed the 15th chapter. We'll begin with the new chapter, 16th chapter. Again, very interesting chapter from next session onwards. Thank you everybody for participating in this session of Bhagavad Gita. We'll meet you again. Hare Krishna. Thank you.